Hey everyone, this is Ben from T3, and I'm bringing you the first match of the finals from San Rafael, San Rafael regional that happened a few weeks ago. And going into this, at the end of 5 rounds of Swiss, I ended up with 18 prestige, or 6 rounds of Swiss. I ended up with 18 prestige, and I was placed 5th, which put me in the higher seed for this matchup. And the higher seed for elimination gets you get to choose. Basically, you get to choose the first match. So I either had My World Is Yours against my opponent's Andy, or this matchup, My Noise against His World Is Yours, which I ultimately selected because if I win this match, I'm mostly guaranteed to get my corpse side for the remainder of the finals, I feel. So it was a worthwhile gambit. And yeah, you probably been seeing this all day from a number of decks, and you see it all the time. It's just NBN icing up and either drawing a card or gaining money. So running at HQ to get him to res ice, mostly, but that Enigma is just kind of annoying, causing me to lose a click. And deciding if I want to trash here. Now, one of the benefits of Noise is I can play a virus to just mill it instead of actually paying the trash cost, which is a little bit more economical, and I'll do just that. Play the medium, trash the San for free. It's pretty good. Saves me 3 credits and also gets me a program out. So otherwise, I think that was the only virus I have in my hand at this point. I just needed to do something to get rid of that San. And trying to get into R&D now, and it's another Enigma, so not what I want to see. Losing those 2 clicks on my first 2 turns sets me back more than it looks like. You know, kind of later in the game, I don't worry about it so much because I have other ways to gain money quickly. But in the beginning, I really want to be setting up and trying to get in as easily as possible to kind of probe and see what kind of NBN deck this is. Because it could be, you know, like mine doesn't use, it doesn't really use biotics that much. I have 1, but that's pretty much it. Other NBN decks will just throw 3 biotics in, and that's its own concern. Because if they do play 3 biotics, or you know, they could even play Scorch. It could be a Psychographics mid-season Scorch type NBN deck, and it's one of the reasons why NBN is so strong right now is because they have all of these options that aren't difficult to slot in. Like right off the bat, they have the engine for fast advance with Sans and Astro scripts, but on top of that, you can just throw in a few biotics and make it pure fast advance, or you could slot in some Scorches and make it more of a taggy flatline style deck where they're just trying to let you steal an agenda. So it's kind of they're pretty good in that way because both of those are strong options, both casually and competitive. So lots of different ways it can go, but with the Enigmas so far, it's reading more as an Astrobiotics style deck than something than the Scorch. You know, you would usually want to let them in if you're gonna just mid-season them afterwards. And I end my turn with the Parasite just to try and make something happen. You know, getting another mill, but he overwrites it immediately, which is fine for me. It just accelerated the rate at which the Parasite got rid of the ice, because the Enigma's dead anyway. You're not going to change it. You know, it's too low of a strength to be able to protect it, unlike Archer or something like that, where you could, you know, leave a Parasite on there for a really long time and then mill it after 4 turns. Or not mill it, but purge after 4 turns. And it's no big deal. But when I ran Archives, you saw that biotic, and that's a great indicator. It's a really, really good card to mill, but I also like seeing that influence. And throughout this tournament, I kept an eye out for that. I was really, really careful to watch my opponent's influence. And since this tournament, I've been as vigilant as I can possibly be about that. I actually found that to be a really big advantage to help my game, where I can read what their goal is or what they're ultimately trying to do with their deck. That's definitely a suggestion I would make whenever you're playing, is to do that. Trying to poke and prod at HQ some more, just make him spend some money, because now he's almost at that point where he can biotic or Sansan something out. Okay, so with that shipment, he is definitely at the point where he can biotic or use Sansan. So it's a concern for me to try and get in there, and I don't do anything about it. Actually, that might not even have clicked with me at this point. But looking back on the game, that's what I'm thinking. That shipment from Sansan, with the amount of money he has, he could just res a Sansan and score out. I see a Beal in his hand, so just do it that way, which would definitely put the pressure on. I have a little bit of money from Liberated account, and I have the Parasite that is in my discard pile and the clone chip. So with the Grimoire, I could kill something small if it comes up. I guess if he reses an Ice Wall or a Quandary, but I don't think I've seen NBN play Ice Wall since Wraparound came out, because it does the same thing. Basically, it makes them get their Fractor out, and that's really the only reason for Ice Wall. Once that comes out, it pretty much makes it useless. So here at the end of his turn, I sacrifice the clone chip to go on the Enigma, and it comes into play with the virus counter. And then at the beginning of my turn, it blows up again. So that's a nice little like 1-2 punch with Grimoire when you have Grimoire out. The best thing to do in that type of scenario, because the clone chip saves me the click too. So now I have an entire turn with a completely unprotected R&D. And yeah, here we're discussing. I saw the Jackson first, so I want to trash it. So a little confusion there about how I was trashing it, but still digging with that medium. And yeah, playing the Parasite at the end of my turn gives me 4 clicks with an unprotected R&D for me to just dig through. And I didn't really want to pay for Jackson immediately, but at the end of this run, I kind of feel like I want to see the extra 2 cards. The first time I would see 2 fresh cards on my second run, but I would rather save my money and use it for something else, even though I have that Liberated out, just because I like to save money with this deck. And obviously he's going to ice up again. And one of those cards I saw was a Grim, and I know that that's the next card, and I still decide to run again on it. I don't really have a good answer for that. I guess it would be game fatigue at this point. This is after 6 rounds of Swiss and a pretty long day with not the greatest food or nourishment, but that's how it's going to be in a tournament. Need to pay more attention to those cards. So another one of those takeaways from the tournament, which is really what this game's about, right? You have to see what happened and learn from it. That's how you're going to get better, just repetition and gameplay and actually having things happen to you. So not a big deal. I just lose that fully loaded medium, and I know what it is, and immediately playing that Knight too. So I could have saved myself a world of trouble by installing that Knight first and throwing it on there and then running, but I didn't do it. So it puts me in a very, very different game state, in a different position. But running on Archives, again, if I see a Jackson, my first instinct is to usually run on Archives. seems kind of self-explanatory. But some people will run on Jackson or will be afraid to run on Jackson and archives, and that is so advantageous to the corp at that point. Because if they can sit back and have that safety net and use Jackson, draw 2 cards every time and thin out their deck, see what they want to get, and even seeing another Jackson, installing another Jackson at that point, and it's just not a good place that you want to be as a runner, letting them have that type of efficiency getting through their deck and to protect themselves, which is really the golden thing that Jackson does. Being able to shuffle those 3 cards back can be anything. You can shuffle in another Jackson if you got one trashed earlier. You can shuffle in the Biotics or the Sands or the Agendas and keep me from scoring. So to kind of mitigate that, definitely suggest running on archives first. And it doesn't work every time, but by running on archives first, you can essentially get them to remove Jackson from the game. Even still, they shuffle those 3 cards back in. It's worth it. And throwing the Knight on wall static, and because of Grim, I get in for 1, which don't really have a better situation. Because of the bad publicity that I got from Grim and scoring that Astro script out of hand. So pretty helpful, especially since that could have just as easily been the Astro script, and I would be in a much worse place if that was the Astro script. But I did see that fast track, so it's super simple for him to go and get the other Astro script right now, or another Astro script. And with the San, I really don't want to run on the San and pay 6 to trash, but so I'm just gonna try and hit his hand some more and see if I can make sure there's nothing else in there. And getting rid of the wall static to get rid of the Knight, which is pretty good. Play I could have probably done there, instead of gaining a credit, is moving the Knight from the wall static to the Grim, which doesn't do anything on paper, really, other than make it so if he wants to get rid of the Knight, he has to get rid of a Grim instead of getting rid of a wall of static, which is a better trade. But I think that was another mistake, is playing the Imp without checking R&D first, because I could have just run R&D and then the Grim triggers and I don't have a program to trash, so no big deal. And instead I elect to just play the Imp and try and get into his hand, and trying to get the remote as well so I can trash the San. But the wraparound keeps me out, which is slightly annoying since I don't play any Fractors. It's just the Crypsis and the blanking Crypsis and the Knight. So if and I've already lost 1 Knight. So for that Crypsis to get in, it costs 8 credits and a counter, which is a whole lot of money, and makes that server pretty much entirely protected unless I get the Knight out, which is, at this point I have fewer outs for, since there's just 2 left in the deck. But HQ is still pretty available, just that pop-up, and I'd prefer not to give him the I'd really prefer not to give him extra credits. And him scoring out the breaking news there tells me that he doesn't have any other agendas in hand. So it doesn't make sense for me to keep hitting there, because if he had any other 3 for 2 in his hand, he would try and score that out before scoring a breaking news. just because it's more points, and it's always better to have 2 points than 1, especially when I don't have a resource or anything for him to trash with the breaking news tags. If I had a fully loaded Liberated out, and he played breaking news, scored it, and then, since the breaking news gives me 2 tags, if he then gets rid of the Liberated accounts off that, or if he could, I would absolutely see playing breaking news above even an Astro script at this point, I would say. Because it puts me in such a big hole. That's the only threat with Liberated. If you just play it and you don't take at least 4 credits off of it, it leaves it very, very susceptible to being trashed, and you're in a huge hole at that point. If I'm going to play Liberated, I almost always click it once on the turn I play it. At the very least, because I don't usually have any other money other than 6 credits, because that is still a lot. And this is a problem when you leave out an Astro script, is it just becomes, install advanced score, install advanced score. So I feel like he probably just top-decked that Beal to make me get rid of it, or he just top-decked the Beal, and I will play Stimhack to get in that Sansan, because even though he doesn't have the Astro, he doesn't have the money for Biotic, and if I can get rid of that Sansan, he can't win immediately. So I use the Stimhack credits to get the up and over the wraparound, and then I use the Imp to trash the Sansan, because I don't want to spend all the rest of my money. And to take the brain damage, which was that Dirty Laundry, which could have been good, but not overall that terribly important. I guess I'm in a little bit of a hole here. But my concern is that I need points. Once he gets 7 credits, he's looking really, really good. I know he plays Biotics, and he still has the fast track in his hand. So he can just go and find one of his 3 2s once he has 7 credits. So, if he played Beanstalk, that would be super good, but I have a feeling, since I haven't seen any ice or any other card that gives him money other than, in faction or neutrals, he probably is playing 3 Biotics. And awesome. So, playing the Parasite on the pop-up so he doesn't get money and he doesn't get closer to Bioticing things out, which is definitely good play. And then making the run to hit the Astro, which is super good. So I guess at this point it doesn't matter that that I take the Astro, because he can't, if he scores anything, he wins. But it's still good to see it. Makes me feel better. And trashing the fast track with Imp, just to slow him down a little bit more. And I think that's 2, if not 3 Sansans that are in trash, so that face down card is probably a Jackson. But I still have to respect it. And he has plenty of money now. So all of his outs are on. And another pop-up. So he could, a Biotic will work. He has the money to Biotic something out. He has the money to res Sansan and score. He can do pretty much anything at this point. I just have to get the agendas before he does, which seems kind of apparent. Okay, so there's the Biotic. So now it's confirmed in my mind. I need to hit agendas before he does. And he doesn't have that Jackson anymore since I trashed it with Imp. So if he wants to draw, he has to just click to do it. Which doesn't, it's fine with him, because if he just draws 3 cards in his turn, the likelihood of me seeing, 4 cards with his mandatory draw. So he has a pretty good chance of seeing an agenda out of when he draws 4, but I only see the top card unless I'd see an agenda. And at this point, I just run through R&D because I need to stop him from top decking an agenda, and I just don't have. I guess I could have put a counter on Crypsis and run, and made one free run with him. With the bad publicity. Oh no, I wouldn't need it to gain another buck too. But my best bet really is to let the Grim do its work and just try and check out R&D. But that pop-up is going to keep me out. And he still has 8 credits, worth noting. And that face-down card over there was a Jackson, so was right there. And just being able to draw all of those cards really helped him at this point. When he had the money and he had the biotic, he just needed an agenda. And I'm trying to figure out if there's anything at all I can do here. And I think... Oh, no, okay. So Deja Vu to put the Knight in my hand. Just... Okay. So, and bioticking out that last agenda. Yeah, it was a good game. Definitely made some mistakes, but got outplayed. You know, he had a good deck. Astrobiotics is good. That's the reason it's so strong right now. Thanks for watching, and I will have Game 2 up shortly.